1 minute before the college entrance examination application deadline, our whole family gathered around my stepsister, celebrating her admission to the top music academy in Rongcheng with a parallel third ranking. 1 minute later, she slid the file, and at the top of the music performance major, my name was prominently displayed. 1. Ching, you're all set this time. Mom congratulates you in advance for getting into Rongin. Our Ching will definitely be the top violinist in the future. The person speaking is my mom, my stepsister Ching's stepmother. Today is the day the art examination results are released. At this moment, she was holding a whole plate of bright red cherries, eagerly surrounding Ching, pulling off the stems and feeding them to her, while also taking the cherry pits from her mouth and tossing them into the trash can. My stepfather Shenfu sat beside her, holding wet wipes, wiping his daughter's fingers one by one. What you're saying, our Ching's level and strength, who can compare with her? He moved cautiously, as if what he held in his hands was a fragile treasure. In the pause between his words, he took a moment to glance at me. Yes, this Yaya has never been able to compare to Ching. Ching ranked first in the city for this art exam, while Yaya barely passed by luck. How can she compare to Ching? My mom said this sincerely, as if Ching were her own daughter. Upon hearing this, Ching was quite pleased with herself. She waved the two of them away and came to my side. Sister, it doesn't matter, if you didn't do well on the exam. Music is something that requires talent. Not everyone can become a musician. It's not too late to see that now. In the future, just learn a trade, whatever it is, as long as you can support yourself and not starve. After saying this, she swaggered out of the study. And my mom and stepfather followed her out. Only I remained in the room, watching with a cold gaze, my heart calm and undisturbed. 2. I had crossed over, into the body of a girl I had never known. Her name was Lin Yu, and she was also an art student, studying the violin. However, even though we are both art students, we are worlds apart. She is a poor student, terrible in her major, and even worse in her academic subjects. As for me, 2 years ago, I was the top student in both my major and academic subjects, when I got into Rongin, the ideal child in everyone's eyes. Listening to their family laughing and enjoying their meal outside, yet not a single person called for me, I didn't hold back and walked straight out. Oh, sister, you still have the face to come to dinner. Don't you always hide in your room eating leftovers? What's wrong? Did you get stimulated today, and now you're not normal? As soon as I came out, I heard Ching's sarcastic voice. What? Are you not even worthy to sit at the table because of your poor grades? I glanced around. There were 3 chairs by the dining table, making it seem like I didn't exist in this family. Yeah, how can you talk to your sister like that? Before Ching could say anything, my mom jumped in to defend her. Upon hearing this, Ching's previously bad expression turned into a smile, but it vanished in an instant. Then, with a look of grievance, she said, Sister, I was just trying to care for you. Why do you have this attitude towards me? Clearly, you didn't do well on your exams and are in a bad mood. So why take it out on me? I ignored her and walked straight to the piano in the adjacent living room, moved the piano bench over, served myself a bowl of rice, and started eating. Seeing that I ignored her, Ching got angry and threw her chopsticks onto my clothes, saying, I'm talking to you, can you hear me? I raised my eyes, silently took a tissue to wipe off the soup on my body, and picked up the chopsticks on the floor. Just when she thought I would endure it again, and not dare to resist, I threw the chopsticks back at her snow-white skirt and raised my eyebrows, saying, this is my attitude. In that moment, everyone was stunned. The previous Lin Yu never dared to speak loudly, let alone resist. But I am different. I will not tolerate this nonsense. From Lin Yu's past memories, I learned that her mother, Lin Hong, had an affair with her boss, Shen Fu, when she was young, jumping from being a secretary to becoming the president's wife, happily moving into the Shen family with her burden. After moving in, Lin Hong played the role of a virtuous wife and mother to the fullest. Although Ching hated Lin Hong, she hated Lin Yu even more. Therefore, to annoy Lin Yu, she often pretended to have a deep mother-daughter relationship with Lin Hong. For so many years, Lin Yu lived under the indifference of her biological mother and the targeting of her stepsister. In my impression, her last memory was in the girls' bathroom at school last night, with half a bottle of medication for depression scattered beside her. I don't know why I am attached to this girl. As for my past life, I only remember the cold wind whistling in my ears as I was pushed off a tall building. But as for me, I accept my situation since I occupy her body, I am her. Lin Yu, you've become quite capable, haven't you? My mother came to her senses and slammed her chopsticks on the table, ready to take action. Enough. My stepfather, Shen Fu, who had been silent, suddenly shouted, startling Lin Hong, sit down and eat. Seeing that Shen Fu didn't say much, Shen Qing was both angry and annoyed. Forcefully sweeping the bowls and dishes in front of her to the ground and rushing towards the bedroom. Shen Fu seemed accustomed to such things. He ignored Shen Qing and turned his gaze towards me. His eyes were probing, like a venomous snake flicking its tongue, tightly wrapping around me. 3. The next day at school, Shen Qing took her father's special car, while I struggled to squeeze onto the last bus that could get me to school before class, carrying a heavy backpack. I entered the classroom with 5 minutes to spare. I saw a group of people gathered around my seat, not knowing what they were doing. Ahem. As soon as I walked in, the chubby kid stationed at the door coughed loudly, and the people surrounding my seat scattered. Something's not right. Very not right. I pretended not to see anything, but in reality, I was secretly observing what they had brought to prank me. Lin Yu's past days at school were truly difficult. All thanks to Shen Qing. Shen Qing publicly proclaimed that Lin Hong was a mistress, claiming that she was bullied by the mother and daughter to the point of desperation, struggling to get by every day. Such a pitiful appearance naturally won the sympathy of everyone. Therefore, Shen Qing's admirers and her girlfriends joined forces to deal with Lin Yu. For example, while walking, someone would deliberately stick out their foot to trip her, causing her knees to bleed. Various dirty and disgusting bugs and notes filled with curses often appeared in the desk hole. Her shoelaces were quietly tied to the table leg, making her fall flat on her face when she stood up. These were all commonplace occurrences for Lin Yu. Sure enough, after my careful inspection, I found that the surface of the stool seemed to be shinier than usual. I casually glanced at a few faces and noticed they were all snickering, waiting for me to sit down. At that moment, Shen Qing walked in holding a stack of papers. As soon as she entered, she looked over at me. Seeing that I was still standing there fine, a hint of disappointment appeared on her face. However, this disappointment was fleeting, and she began distributing the papers for the lesson. After pondering for a moment, I pretended not to know there was something on the stool, casually placed my backpack on the table, took out last night's homework and handed it to the podium, then followed her back to my seat. I believe that she thinks I will be embarrassed, and it is impossible for me to just sit back and do nothing. Sure enough, I saw Zhong Hao sitting diagonally in front of me giving a signal to Shen Qing, as if to say, look at me. Then he stealthily stretched out his foot, ready to use the same trick again to trip me. But I was already mentally prepared. I pretended to accidentally step on a shoelace, my body uncontrollably leaning forward, and I pushed Shen Qing, who was holding the rolled-up paper, out. Shen Qing was caught off guard and also fell forward, just in time to be tripped by Zhong Hao's foot, landing on my stool. Ah! In an instant, she screamed. I'm sorry, Qing Qing, I just accidentally tripped you a bit. Are you okay? Did you fall? I pretended to feel guilty, and limped over to show concern. Lin Yu. You did that on purpose. Zhong Hao shouted angrily, pointing his finger at my nose. But compared to scolding me, caring for Shen Qing was more important. Qing Qing, are you hurt? Can you get up? Let me help you. Zhong Hao was in front, trying his best to show off his sycophantic behavior in front of everyone. No need. Shen Qing's face turned pale and flushed, and her eyes were red with anxiety. What are you doing? Didn't you hear the class bell? At the door, the class teacher, Teacher Ning, had a serious expression. You're all in your senior year, and still not behaving properly. If you don't want to go to college, you might as well go home early. Don't let one bad apple spoil the whole barrel. As soon as Zhong Hao saw the teacher arrive, he exaggeratedly shouted, "Teacher Ning." Shenqing was pushed down by Lin Yu and got hurt. Teacher Ning frowned. "Hurt? Is it serious? Let's take her to the infirmary to have a look." "No, no need." Shenqing panicked when she heard she had to get up. "Are you really okay?" Shenqing nodded with a complicated expression. "Then since you're fine, hurry back to your seat and sit properly. Don't waste class time." "Teacher, Qingqing might have hurt her leg and can't get up. I'll help you." "No need." I didn't give her a chance to speak and went straight to action. With a rip, Shenqing's face turned bright red, and she burst into tears. 4. Everyone was stunned, then someone started to laugh quietly. And soon the whole class erupted in laughter. It turned out that what was glowing on the stool was not water, but 502 super glue. Shenqing lost her balance and fell onto the stool, landing right in the puddle of glue. She didn't want to get up, but with my kind help, a large piece of her school uniform skirt was torn off, leaving only the lining barely covering her. How could someone as proud as Shenqing accept such an embarrassing situation? She felt greatly insulted, her eyes red, staring at me fiercely as if she wanted to eat me alive. I looked back into her eyes, smiling brightly, and quietly said 2 words when no one was paying attention: "You deserve it." She was instantly enraged, completely disregarding her own image, and rushed over to scratch my face. I was already on guard, gently dodging, and she charged straight into Teacher Ning. "Ah!" Teacher Ning's cry of pain echoed throughout the classroom. Teacher Ning is famously beauty-conscious at the school, soaking her hands in milk every day, not to mention how much she values her face. Sure enough, she yelled, "Shenqing! Get your parents over here." During the lunch break, my mom and Shenfu rushed over in a panic. As soon as she entered, my mom saw Shenqing crying at the desk and walked straight towards me. Slap! A metallic sweetness surged in my mouth. "Why are you always such a worry, as the older sister? Why do you bully your younger sister every day? Do you have any conscience?" At this moment, she looked at me not as if I were her own daughter, but rather like an enemy, wishing I would die quickly. "Ah, how could you hit a child?" Teacher Ning, in a fit of anger, pulled at the wound on her face, grimacing in pain. Only then did the two notice the scratches on Teacher Ning's face. "Great! Not only are you bullying your sister at school, but you even laid hands on a teacher. Have you learned your manners from a dog's belly?" My mom became more and more agitated, panting heavily, and was about to rush over to hit me again. In the moment her hand was about to come down, I tightly grasped her wrist. "Who is really your biological daughter? You come here without asking a single question, and just assume that I bullied Shenqing and hit the teacher. Do you really think so little of me?" By the end, my voice suddenly choked up. I couldn't tell if it was the emotions hidden within the original owner's body that were acting up, or if I was simply mourning for this already deceased girl. My mom didn't expect me to resist, and for a moment she was stunned, then immediately flew into a rage. "You little wretch. I provide for you, feed you, and you even bring home an enemy. You ungrateful wolf." At this point, Shenqing had stopped crying. With her eyes like 2 walnuts, she stood next to Shenfu, fanning the flames. "Mom. Hit her. She made me lose face at school, and if you don't teach her a lesson, I'll have Dad divorce you." My mom couldn't bear to hear about the divorce, and in an instant, she forcefully threw me out. The force was too great, and I had no time to react. I could only watch helplessly as I fell towards the fruit knife on the table. 5. With this direction and force, if nothing goes wrong, my right hand will be pierced by the glinting fruit knife. As I fell, I saw a malicious and excited light in Shenqing's eyes. If something happens to my right hand, it means I will never be able to become a musician again, and even daily life could become difficult. At this critical moment, Teacher Ning stepped in front of me. I watched as her hand was cut by the fruit knife. "Teacher Ning." I was initially at a loss, but when I saw her hand bleeding, I snapped back to reality, and hurried to the corner of the office to grab a roll of gauze, quickly bandaging her hand. Teacher Ning, too, didn't mean to do this. My mom saw that the situation had exceeded her expectations, and she was so scared that she couldn't speak clearly. Teacher Ning, I'm really sorry. My wife is clumsy and lacks discretion. She intended to educate the child, but ended up hurting you. I apologize on her behalf. Rest assured, we will cover all your medical expenses. We will definitely come to apologize another day, and I will invite Principal Lee to join us for a meal. I hope you can overlook this and not hold it against an uneducated housewife. Shenfu stepped forward and said the first sentence after entering. It seemed like he was apologizing to Teacher Ning, but in reality, he brought up Principal Lee, subtly pressuring her not to escalate the situation. Teacher Ning glanced at my mother and then at Shenfu, sneering, Mr. Shen. You don't need to use Principal Lee to pressure me. I didn't get to where I am today through any underhanded dealings or social connections. Shenfu did not expect Teacher Ning to be so disrespectful to him, and he felt a bit embarrassed at that moment. Teacher Ning did not care about him and turned to sit at her desk. I have been a teacher for nearly 20 years, and I have never seen parents like you. I don't care about your family matters, but once the child is at school, I have the obligation to teach her how to be a good person. At this point, she glanced at Shenqing. Shenqing is indeed quite smart. Hearing Teacher Ning's praise, Shenqing felt as proud as a peacock about to spread its feathers. Even though she looked disheveled, she still held her head high with arrogance. But she never uses her brain in the right place. Initially, Shenfu was still immersed in Teacher Ning's acknowledgement of his daughter's excellence, but upon hearing this, his brows instantly furrowed. I haven't finished speaking. Since we are already on this topic today, I might as well say one more thing. If you don't guide Shenqing onto the right path, this child will eventually be ruined. After saying that, she looked at my mom again. Although Lin Yu's grades are average, a child is not defined solely by their grades. Her kindness, her integrity, and her strength are all her shining points. Can you see these? My mom wanted to argue, but she was rendered speechless by Teacher Ning's next words. You only focus on your own interests. I must say, as a mother, you have failed. This sentence was like a beam of light burning through my mom's dark heart, a sharp tool that pierced through the last layer of her defenses, leaving her pale and bloodless. All right, I've said enough. Today, Shenqing wanted to find someone to tease Lin Yu. But she didn't expect that she would become the one being teased. Shenqing, take her back to change clothes and educate her properly, and come back tomorrow. After saying that, Teacher Ning didn't pay attention to them and called me to go to the infirmary together. When I got home in the evening, as soon as I entered the door, I saw Shenfu and my mom sitting on the sofa, while Shenqing was gloating beside them. Lin Yu, come with me to the study. After saying that, Shenfu took the lead and walked towards the study. As soon as I heard study, my mom's face stiffened slightly, her expression a bit unnatural, but she still didn't stop me from going to the study. I followed Shenfu upstairs and entered the study. Close the door. Shenfu's voice had no fluctuations. I complied and stood in front of his desk. He coldly looked me up and down, his gaze inching closer, aggressively eroding my skin. After a while, he spoke, Yeah. Your recent behavior has been quite unusual. You used to be someone who never fought for anything. Why have you recently changed so much, always wanting to compete with your sister? You need to understand, he took a sip of hot tea, when you came to our Shen family with your mother, it was I who provided you with the best food, clothing, and shelter. It was I who gave you the opportunity to continue your education, and it was I who persuaded your mother to let you study music with Qingqing. And since I can give you these things, I can certainly take them back. At this point, he stopped and looked into my eyes. Seeing that I had no reaction, he stood up and came in front of me. Look, just because your performance in the art exam was poor, you've become this thin. As he spoke, his hand rested on my shoulder and slowly slid down. I felt nauseous in my stomach and shivered. Memories of Lin Yu in this study floated into my mind. Shenfu's inappropriate hands, his sinister smile, and Lin Yu's sobbing. I suddenly took a step back and looked at him coldly. Seeing my resistance, the fake smile on Shenfu's face finally disappeared. He had a blank expression, his eyes fixed on me, waiting for me to back down. I stared at him for a long time, always on guard. Before long, Shenfu sneered, Lin Yu, you need to understand that your future is in my hands. If you want to maintain your current decent life, I advise you to behave. Otherwise. As he spoke, he moved closer to me again. Seeing his hand coming towards me again inappropriately, I smiled at him brightly, then directly grabbed his hand and twisted it behind his back. In an instant, all that could be heard was his pig-like scream. I also advise you to stop your filthy thoughts. Or next time, you won't be so lucky. With that, I pushed him back hard and turned to leave. In the study, Shenfu glared at my departing figure with a gloomy expression, a strange smile appearing on his lips. A little wildcat that can scratch is quite interesting. 6. Since the last time Shenqing suffered a big loss at my hands, she no longer dared to openly provoke me. Shenfu has also calmed down a lot. Not long after, during one dinner, Shenfu announced some news. 1 month later, the principal of Rongin will come to our music institution for an exchange. This is called an exchange, but in fact, it is to secretly select talented students to take under her wing after the college entrance examination, and make them her closed-door disciples. Upon hearing this news, Shenqing was extremely excited. Dad. Really? Is it really the principal of Rongin, Zhong Yinyin, who is coming? Shenfu nodded with a smile. So Dad, have you asked clearly? When is she coming? What aspects and which pieces will she be assessing? Do you know all this? My mom served Shenqing a piece of steamed fish she had carefully chosen, smiling as she said, look at how anxious you are, Qingqing. Since your dad has already told you, he must be fully prepared. Just wait patiently to become Principal Zhong's closed-door disciple. Watching the three of them enjoying their time together, I pretended to be uninterested and quietly ate, but inside, I was already stirred up by a storm of emotions. The reason is simple, the principal of Rongin, Zhong Yinyin, is my master from my previous life. I was her most favored disciple, Chen Yu. In the 2 days after my rebirth, I specifically followed the news. The report of the top violin master Zhong Yinin's beloved disciple accidentally falling to her death had spread throughout the streets and alleys of Rome City. Everyone was lamenting that this rising star had quietly passed away before she could even rise. My death in my previous life was suspicious, but I could probably narrow down the suspects. It was just those 2 people who were competing for the first chair with me. Although I didn't want to believe it, one was my close friend, and the other was my fiancé. In this life, I originally planned to wait until I went to Ronin to start investigating the cause of my death. However, I didn't expect that I would have to meet those familiar people so soon. I never thought we would meet this early, and I hadn't even figured out how to face her. I was immersed in my own thoughts and didn't pay attention to what they were saying. Lin Yu, what are you doing? Your Uncle Shen is calling you. Lin Hong called me impatiently and glared at me. I looked towards Shenfu. Tomorrow, I will invite a very talented person to be Qingqing's tutor, fully preparing for this selection. Yaya can also learn alongside to improve her skills and prepare for music school in the future. Dad? Are you mistaken? Lin Yu is going to learn with me. With her level, can she keep up with my pace? She just affects me every day and holds me back. Shenqing shouted exaggeratedly. I don't want to learn with her. If she has to join, then I won't study. This time, Shenfu did not indulge Shenqing as usual. Instead, he looked at her seriously. This is settled. If you don't want to study, then I will let him tutor only Yaya. Dad. Shenqing was very dissatisfied. Seeing Shenfu's serious expression, with no room for negotiation, Shenqing stomped her feet in anger and ran back to her bedroom. What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and thank your Uncle Shen. Lin Hong shot me a glance and kicked me under the table, urging me to express my gratitude. Thank you, Uncle Shen. I pretended to be surprised and happy, filled with gratitude. But in fact, I wasn't very happy. Because even without anyone's tutoring, I could still be admitted to Rongin with the best results. 2 months later, it will be the annual Golden Sound Cup competition at Rongin. The champion of the competition can be admitted regardless of their poor academic performance. I am confident in myself, and I agreed just to confuse him. I know that Shen Fu threw out such a big bait, wanting to give me a sweet date first, and then casually tell me that as long as he is happy, I can have the best of everything. He thinks he is the hunter, but little does he know, he is actually the prey. Before I knew it, it was Friday. The day Shen Fu had arranged for the tutor to come to us. Shen Qing specifically asked for leave from evening study to go home early. I didn't go back with her and returned home only after evening study. I thought that by this late hour, the teacher should have already left, and I could avoid running into old acquaintances. But to my surprise, as soon as I entered the door, I saw him guiding Shen Qing with his back to the door. On the sofa beside us, Shen Fu and my mom were enraptured, watching Shen Qing perform. With that expression, one might think she was playing a master. But I could clearly hear that in just this one measure, Shen Qing had already missed 2 notes and her 16th notes were unstable. Hearing the noise behind me, the person turned around, and we locked eyes. In an instant, I felt as if I had been electrocuted, with memories of my past life flashing through my mind, making me dizzy enough to think I was still Chen Yu. The person was my boyfriend, Ji Yu Chen. 7. Lin Yu, how can you be so rude? Why don't you greet teacher Ji Yu? My mom saw me staring blankly at Ji Yu Chen, not even blinking, and felt very embarrassed. Shen Qing had already fallen for Ji Yu Chen at first sight, having long regarded him as her possession. At this moment, seeing me staring at Ji Yu Chen like that, she instantly became angry. Lin Yu. What's wrong with you? Teacher Ji Yu is here to tutor me at my dad's request. You're just a side note, because my dad is being polite. Why are you staring at him like that? I ignored Shen Qing and apologized to Ji Yu Chen. I'm sorry, teacher Ji Yu. I've heard for a long time that Principal Zhong has a prized student who once won first place in the national violin competition. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. I didn't expect you to be so young. I was rude just now. Ji Yu Chen looked me over for a long time and smiled faintly. It's okay. I heard from Uncle Shen that you also studied the violin, and you'll be learning with Shen Qing from now on. I thought I wouldn't have the chance to meet you today, but since you're here, why don't you play a piece for me? I'd like to see your level so I can have a better understanding. Phut, Shen Qing laughed when she heard Ji Yu Chen's words. Teacher Ji Yu, what level do you expect from someone who barely passes the art exam? Her playing is no better than sawing wood. After saying that, she turned and provocatively said, Lin Yu, since teacher Ji Yu wants you to play a piece, you should play one, so he knows not to have any expectations of you. I'm not feeling very well with my hands today. How about we do it another day? Seeing my hesitation, Shen Qing instantly became energized. She teased, if you're afraid of embarrassing yourself, just admit you're weak. Don't make excuses. Can you hide from the first day of school and still hide from the 15th? Yes, my skills are poor, so I won't embarrass myself here. For the first time, I felt that Shen Qing was a good ally. The reason I didn't want to play in front of Ji Yu Chen was that he was too familiar with me, familiar enough to know my subtle movements while playing and my habitual rhythm. He knew them all too well. Although he wasn't superstitious, such deep familiarity would definitely raise his suspicions. I couldn't expose myself in front of him, because he might be the one who could kill me. Even though I could never believe that Ji Yu Chen, who loved me to the bone, could ever harm me, on the day I fell from the high building, I distinctly smelled the perfume I had given him. That is a perfume I made myself, with a scent of pine needles mixed with bergamot. And I added a secret spice that I have never smelled in any store. I also gave a bottle of the same scented perfume to Guo Yao. Since that's the case, let's just let it go this time. Ji Chen took my self-doubt about my poor skills for granted and didn't push further. On Sunday, I want to check your homework, the first movement of Vivaldi's Fifth Concerto. You have 2 days to practice, and you can't skip it then. After saying that, he stood up and left. Once he was gone, Shenqing's flower-like smile instantly faded. She glared at me fiercely, her tone unfriendly. Take back that infatuated look, don't you think you deserve it? I'm telling you, he is mine. If you dare to touch him, I'll make sure your mom gets kicked out of the Shen family with you. After saying that, she forcefully bumped my shoulder and went back to her room with her violin. As soon as I entered my room and put down my backpack, Lin Hong pushed the door open and came in. Lin Yu. You were really embarrassing today. I'm telling you, don't covet what doesn't belong to you, got it? Seeing her so adamant in lecturing me, I found it ridiculous. Mom, anyone can say that, but you can't. If you didn't covet what you shouldn't, could you stand here talking to me now? You. This statement infuriated Lin Hong, and she raised her hand to hit me. Go ahead and hit me. If you dare to touch me, I can make sure you get kicked out by Shen Fu, do you believe it? I looked at her coldly. You heartless person. How can you be so cold-blooded? Lin Hong's voice trembled, her hands shaking with anger. I'm cold-blooded. I am indeed cold-blooded, because I share the same blood as you. I pushed her hand, which was suspended in mid-air, aside and stepped forward to look into her eyes. Otherwise, how could you know that Shen Fu has ulterior motives towards me and still let me into his study? My mom instantly seemed to have all her strength drained. Collapsing onto the bed, at a loss, what are you talking about? Your Uncle Shen is only doing this for your own good, how could he? She continued to speak to herself, her eyes darting around, but she never dared to look into my eyes. At this moment, I felt sorrow for Lin Yu. Having such a mother was the beginning of her misfortune in this life. 8. It has been a month since Ji Chen started tutoring us. During this month, he came 3 days a week, and I must say, under his guidance, Shenqing has indeed made significant progress. As for me, every time he taught, I had to pretend to be at a very low level, changing all my previous habits, which really took a toll on my brain. Finally, the day arrived for Zhong Yinyan to come to the institution for an exchange. On this day, Shenqing was dressed flamboyantly in a bright red dress, with highlighter on her cheekbones and nose that looked like it was smeared with lard, almost blinding me. Because for the past few months, Ji Chen has been giving me extra help due to my poor foundation, which made Shenqing both angry and annoyed. So, last night, she secretly cut a big hole in the back half of the performance dress I was supposed to wear today, hoping to make me anxious and embarrass myself. But I didn't care at all, because the one who would definitely embarrass herself today would be her. This morning, Shen Fu took us to the entrance of the institution. He repeatedly assured Shenqing that everything had been arranged, telling her to go with peace of mind. Seeing the confident expression on Shenqing's face, a smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. I don't know whose unfortunate idea it was to suggest that Shen Fu bribe the students around Zhong Yinyan to find out the pieces and standards for this assessment in advance. I can't speak for others, but I know my master too well. Any student who chooses a piece that she has leaked will definitely not be accepted by her. Because a student who rises through underhanded means, no matter how skilled they are, their character is disgraceful. The exam soon began. Because Shen Fu sent a case of Maotai to the teacher in charge of this exam, the teacher agreed to place Shenqing's turn among a few less capable students, so that with the comparison, she would naturally stand out. Unfortunately, I am one of those unfortunate runners-up. After those few came out, Shenqing glanced at me triumphantly and went in first. Her chosen piece happened to hit the nail on the head. Through the glass, I saw that row of teachers exchange knowing glances. They all knew that Shenqing was the daughter of Shen Fu, so they were all holding back their excitement, ready to praise her after her performance. But who would have thought that after just a minute of playing, Zhong Yinyan called for a stop. Everyone looked at each other, completely confused. This? You can go out now, next one. Zhong Yinyan said expressionlessly. Principal Zhong, I think this child is better than the previous few. I heard she is the first in this Rongqing art exam. Exactly, Principal Zhong, if you miss such a good talent, there won't be another teacher hurriedly agreed. But Zhong Yinyin remained unmoved. Seeing that her month of hard work had not even been completed, Shenqing's mindset completely collapsed, and she ran out. I walked in, and the teachers all frowned in unison when they saw that I hadn't changed my clothes or put on makeup. This student, is this how you approach this performance? I'm sorry, teachers, my family is poor and I can't afford a performance outfit. I believe you can understand my difficulties. A teacher who knew the situation was about to retort that I was Shenfu's stepdaughter, but was directly interrupted by Zhong Yinyin. It's okay, let's start. I looked at her with mixed feelings, my mind filled with every little thing she taught me in my past life. Without thinking too much, I began to play. This time, I didn't hold back my strength. The piece I played was one that no one had ever heard before, a song called Wisteria, that I co-created with Zhong Yinyin, and had not yet been published. From the moment my first note sounded, I noticed that her expression changed. She was first taken aback, then filled with disbelief. She stared at me intently, carefully observing every movement I made and listening closely to how I handled every detail. Gradually, her surprise turned into ecstasy, and her eyes began to moisten. As the last note fell, the entire room fell silent. The teachers who initially had little faith in me were all astonished and speechless, until one teacher muttered to themselves, "Oh my! Is this a student trained by our institution? How come I have no impression of her at all? This level is something that someone her age cannot possibly achieve. Genius! This is genius!" I remained silent and, after expressing my gratitude, looked up at my master. She was also looking at me. Everyone behind, please stop looking and go out first. Everything you heard here just now, please keep it confidential. I have something to say to this child. Everyone understood with such a level, there was no need to look at anyone else. Principal Zhong was determined to protect this promising student from being exposed too early, which could affect her upcoming college entrance examination. Everyone promptly responded and walked out. Zhong Yinyin slowly walked up to me, tears streaming down her face. "Ayu, is that you?" I slowly forced a smile and raised my hand to wipe away her tears. "Master, I'm back." 9. About half an hour later, I came out of the room. As soon as I came out, I heard someone shouting, "Why can't we go in to perform? We've worked so hard to prepare for so long, and now you say we can't perform. Is this what you call fairness?" Another parent chimed in, "Exactly. Could it be that there's some insider information among you?" Yes. There must be some insider information. The person in charge of the organization was really overwhelmed by the chaotic scene. However, they couldn't openly say that Principal Zhong already had good candidates in mind and that others simply didn't catch her eye. So they could only keep trying to calm everyone down. As the situation escalated, Zhong Yinyin came out of the room. "Everyone, I have achieved my purpose for coming here, so there is no need to continue. I know some of you are dissatisfied and feel it's unfair that you weren't given a chance. But today, I came here for communication. If you are not satisfied, then show your strength at the Golden Sound Cup in 2 months, and speak to me with your abilities." After saying that, she subtly gestured to me and gracefully left. On the way back, Shenqing bombarded me with questions. "What were you doing in there for so long? What did Principal Zhong say to you?" I knew she would ask, so I had already prepared my answer. She said my skills were too poor, so she taught me some finger techniques and tips, encouraging me to work hard and not give up. "Ha, I knew it." Shenqing sighed in relief, looking at me with disdain. "Mom and Dad thought they were keeping you to take you as a closed-door disciple. How could that be possible? I think she would only choose you if she were blind." She rolled her eyes. "Dad, do you think I could be Principal Zhong's closed-door disciple?" The thought excited Shenqing so much that she almost jumped out of the car. Look, I was the only one who came out so quickly. It must be my superb skills that made Principal Zhong feel there was no need for further evaluation, which is why she let me go. It seems so. When I was in the room, I also heard the teachers say that Qingqing's level was the highest among these people. Qingqing was beaming with pride, looking as if she had already become Zhong Yinin's closed-door disciple. Needless to say, this closed-door disciple must be our Qingqing. Our Qingqing is just following me. When Shenfu heard this, he almost drove the car onto the curb. My mom also laughed and agreed, saying that they would be waiting to benefit from her in the future. As their family of 3 began to enjoy a bright future, I laughed along. Laughing, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. I wonder if Qingqing, this little princess, can accept this heavy blow. 10. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. And the golden sound cup arrived as scheduled. I and a group of contestants sat backstage, waiting for the competition to begin. For fairness and justice, everyone wore the same uniform, styled the same hairstyle, and wore masks that covered half of their faces, waiting to be called. The atmosphere was somewhat tense, and no one spoke. In this moment of silence, I suddenly noticed 2 familiar faces when the camera swept over the audience. It was Ji Chen and Guo Yao. They sat together, behaving intimately, and it didn't look like they had just gotten together. I was stunned and let out a bitter laugh. No wonder. The things I had been unable to understand before were all explained in that moment. They definitely weren't together only after my death, because during the election for the orchestra's principal, Guo Yao had once used the excuse of my relationship with Ji Chen to persuade me to withdraw from the competition. At that time, I only thought she was overthinking and didn't understand the feelings between us. But now I realize that I was oblivious. They had already been in a relationship back then. During this time, I secretly contacted my master to help me find the footage from the academy on the day I fell. However, things didn't go as smoothly as I hoped. Not long after I went up to the rooftop that night, the academy experienced a power outage, so there was no surveillance footage to see who had gone up to the rooftop with me. Still, I always felt like I was overlooking something. What exactly was it? I tried hard to recall, but couldn't think of anything. The competition soon began, and I temporarily set this matter aside to focus on the contest. Soon, it was Qingqing's turn to perform. In the past 2 months, Qingqing has become somewhat complacent in her piano practice, thinking that her success is guaranteed, which has led to a decline in her skill level. However, it is undeniable that her skill level is the best among the contestants who have performed so far. She did her best to finish the piece, and when taking her bow, she held her head high, clearly feeling confident of her victory. I was the last to perform. Standing on stage, looking at the familiar layout of the concert hall and the familiar faces, I felt a surge of emotions. Seeing the encouraging look in my teacher's eyes, I began to play. This time, the piece I chose is the same one I selected years ago when I stood here. However, even though it is the same piece, my state of mind is vastly different from before. Slowly, it felt as if the concert hall had pressed play again. Apart from the sound of my piano, the entire place was silent. Ji Chen and Guo Yao looked terrified, staring at me as if they had seen a ghost, not blinking at all. Suddenly, I noticed the red dot of the camera, which felt strangely familiar. I suddenly remembered what I had overlooked just now. It's a drone. The night I went to the top floor, there was a drone filming the night view next to the teaching building. I kept this matter in my heart and continued to play calmly. When I played the last note, the audience erupted in applause, which lasted for a long time. I haven't seen such a good talent in so many years. The last one was Chen Yu from a few years ago. Yes, you could say she resembles Chen Yu by 90%. However, in terms of musical style, this child handles it with more depth and richer emotions, as if she has a lot of life experience. Chen Yu, on the other hand, is more ethereal, like she doesn't belong to this world. This level, this technique, and such a steady stage presence all appearing in a child under 18, what else could it be but genius? It's like heaven is feeding her. Zhong Yinyin listened to the teachers around her praising me, and her pride became more evident. Before long, the results of the competition were announced. No surprise, I won the championship of this Golden Sound Cup. Shenqing came in second. Student number 40, congratulations on winning the championship of this Golden Sound Cup. Now, please take off your mask and introduce yourself to everyone. Below the stage, I saw Shenfu and my mom excitedly picking up their phones to prepare for a live broadcast. They have always believed that the champion must undoubtedly be Shenqing. Facing everyone, I slowly took off the mask. Chen Yu. 11. At the moment I took off the mask, Ji Chen stood up in shock, his face pale. Guo Yao slumped in her chair, beads of sweat covering her forehead. The teachers in the front row also gasped in surprise. Looking at their shocked expressions, I slowly revealed a smile. Hello everyone. I am Lin Yu. The reason they were so surprised is that the makeup I wore today was too similar to my previous lifestyle. In fact, Lin Yu and I already had some resemblance, and I intentionally applied this makeup, adding a mole under my right eye, making me look about 80 to 90% like my previous self. Could it be that geniuses are all cast from the same mold? This can't be a coincidence. Could it be that this girl is really the reincarnation of Chen Yu? Everything is just too similar. Impossible. Just as everyone was discussing, a sudden voice appeared. How could it be her? How could she be the champion? Shenqing rushed in from backstage, her face full of anger. She barely passed the music entrance exam, with her level. How could she possibly play a piece as high level as just now? There must be something shady going on. You must have manipulated things behind the scenes and provided her with accompaniment. Last time at the institution, Principal Zhong stayed alone with her in the room for more than half an hour. Who knows what they did in there? Did Principal Zhong give her the answers? Upon hearing her words, the teachers and other participants in the audience exchanged glances, filled with suspicion. Seeing the doubt in the eyes of those around her, Shenqing became even more energized. If you don't believe me, you can ask Brother Ji Chen. Brother Ji Chen has come to my house to tutor us so many times, and her playing has always sounded like a table leg. How could she have made such a huge improvement overnight? Brother Ji Chen. Speak up. Shenqing thought she had uncovered a huge conspiracy, looking at me with excitement as I was about to be condemned by everyone. In contrast to her, Shenfu sat in the audience like an ant on a hot pan, desperately wanting her to shut up. But Shenqing, blinded by jealousy, didn't care to think and blurted out everything. She thought bringing up Ji Chen could put me in a dead end, but I was just waiting for her to say that. There is a rule at Ronin that students are not allowed to go out privately to tutor participants in any form during the Golden Sound Cup, otherwise, anyone will be dealt with according to school regulations. Upon hearing her say this, everyone's gaze shifted to Ji Chen's face. No, it's not. Ji Chen hurriedly defended himself. If this matter were confirmed, he would definitely lose his position as the principal. Seeing that one wave had not yet settled and another was rising, Zhong Yinyan stood up and walked to the stage. Everyone, we have all witnessed Lin Yu's level just now. This student claims that we cheat on the questions, which is even more absurd. As we all know, since the establishment of Ronin, we have always spoken with strength and character. For so many years of holding the Golden Sound Cup, no one has ever questioned the fairness and justice of our competition. Since you brought it up today and feel that someone has cheated, then I will say a few more words. Do you know why you were not allowed to finish your performance at the institution before, and were asked to leave? Zhong Yinin's gaze was sharp, causing Shenqing to take a step back. I have always hated those who are unscrupulous and want to take shortcuts. Unfortunately, you have hit the target. Today, I want to make it clear that regardless of what others think, I, Zhong Yinyan, will absolutely not accept a student like you. Furthermore, Zhong Yinyan glanced at Ji Chen. From today on, the principal of the orchestra will be temporarily replaced by Guo Yao. After saying that, she ignored the gazes of everyone and took me away. As we left, I heard Shenqing wailing. Didn't you say everything was arranged perfectly? Didn't you say this would definitely work out? You? Slap. Shenqing was slapped to the ground by Shenfu. People around them were pointing at the father and daughter, and some even took out their phones to live stream. Shenfu's old face turned red with embarrassment as he grabbed Shenqing, ignoring her cries, and dragged her away. Upon arriving at the office, I told my master about the drone incident. She listened with a serious expression, and immediately called the security department to retrieve the footage from that afternoon. After watching the surveillance for a while, we finally found the person controlling the drone, Zhao Liang from the music department. Initially, when he was called to the office and realized it was about this incident, he kept denying it, claiming that nothing was recorded. But when my master presented the footage from that afternoon, he had nothing to say. Zhao Liang was silent for a while and then asked, "If I hand over this footage, can you guarantee that I won't be harmed, principal?" "Of course." "All right, then I'll send it to you." Zhao Liang took out his phone, retrieved the footage from a private folder, and sent it to my master. Thank you for your understanding, and thank you for being willing to help Chen Yu." When Zhao Liang was about to leave the office, my master sincerely said. He stopped and turned back upon hearing this. "I'm sorry, but please make sure to help Chen Yu find the murderer." After saying that, he turned and left. I stepped out of the office and watched the video with my master. At 15 minutes and 20 seconds, I saw Jiyu Chen's face, a mix of panic and twisted excitement, as I fell from the building. 12. My master saw me silent for a long time and gently patted me. "Don't be sad, are you? Who hasn't misjudged someone in their life? Since heaven has given you another chance, you must cherish it. The most important thing right now is the college entrance examination." Looking at the concerned expression in my master's eyes, I felt a wave of comfort in my heart. "Don't worry, master, I know everything. I had always misjudged Jiyu Chen. In the past, I thought he was merely a refined egoist, but I never expected that he not only cheated, but also resorted to such unscrupulous means for his own benefit, disregarding human life." After tidying up my emotions, I went home. It is now mid to late May, and the school conducts a mock exam once a week. The news that I won first place in the Golden Sound Cup spread throughout the school like it had grown wings. "Look, that's the champion of this Golden Sound Cup, Lin Yu. I heard she barely passed the art exam. Before I really don't know how she suddenly improved so much." "Exactly. But what's the use of being good at her major? Her academic performance is still terrible. At her current level, I bet she won't pass the academic exam and won't get into Rongin." "Don't say that. The academic requirements for art students are originally low. Maybe she'll surprise everyone and get first place in academics. During this time, I have become the hot topic among everyone in the school during their breaks. Of course, I lived up to their expectations and secured third place in the final mock exam across the school." Wow! Breaking news. Our classmate Lin Yu actually ranked third in the grade. She really gives our regular class some face. I've never liked those people in the key classes. What's so great about them? Even in the key classes, not everyone is in the top 10. What's there to be arrogant about? Now Lin Yu has pulled off a miraculous comeback for our regular class. Damn. Lin Yu, you are my forever idol. Just as everyone was amazed by my grades, Shenqing's frantic voice rang out. Have you all forgotten that she is the daughter of a mistress? A child of someone like her must have character issues by nature. Who knows if her third place is copied? You still want to associate with someone like her? It's really laughable. Shenqing, you always say that Lin Yu's mom is a mistress, but why do I keep hearing you call her mom? If her mom really is a mistress, then someone like you not kicking her out of the house would be quite good, and you still dare to call her mom. Someone nearby who couldn't stand Shenqing spoke up. Exactly, you keep saying mistress, mistress, what evidence do you have? I think it's because you're jealous that Lin Yu suddenly got better at studying than you, that's why you're saying this. Seeing that the situation was not in her favor, Shenqing was about to retort when a voice from the door interrupted. Lin Yu, there's a handsome guy looking for you. I looked towards the door. And the person was none other than Jiyu Chen. Brother Jiyu Chen. As soon as Shenqing saw him, she immediately softened her voice and fluttered over to him like a flower butterfly. Ji Chen didn't even glance at her, because of what happened at the golden sound cup, and turned his head to look at me. Seeing that he treated her like air, Shenqing vented her anger on me. Lin Yu. How can you be so shameless? You're just like your shameless mom, always stealing other people's men. Looking at Ji Chen with grievance, she said, Ji Chen, don't be fooled by her. She's just a two-faced, shameless person. It seemed that Ji Chen couldn't hear me, as he walked past her towards me. You have to believe me. That incident really has nothing to do with me. It was all Guiyao, it was Guiyao who pushed you. It's so good to have you back. Although I don't believe in ghosts or gods, I believe you are I'll wait for you at Rongin, and we won't be separated again. Okay. Ji Chen became more and more agitated, his expression frenzied. Teacher Ji. I am not the you speak of, I am Lin Yu. I don't know what your relationship with you is, but we have no relationship at all. I hope you won't disturb my life in the future. I have class soon, so I hope you leave quickly. Just as Ji Chen was about to say something else, Teacher Ning walked in with the class bell. As soon as she entered and saw the stranger Ji Chen, she immediately reached for her phone to call security. Perhaps afraid of making a scene, Ji Chen gave me a deep look and then left. Shenqing glared at me with resentment. Her gaze seemed to want to pierce 2 holes in me. I waited for a few days and saw no action from her, but I didn't let my guard down, because I knew that with old grudges and new hatred combined, she wouldn't let me off easily. 13. On the day the college entrance examination ended, as I walked out of the exam room, I knew that soon the doors of Rongin would surely open for me. Having resolved a concern, I walked home feeling relieved. Upon returning home, it was quiet all around, as if no one was there. When I felt something was off and wanted to run out, the front door was already closed. I saw Shenqing standing at the door with the remote control for the front gate, looking at me with a beaming smile. Sister, a few days ago, I was just under too much pressure while reviewing and lost control, which is why I snapped at you. You won first place in the Golden Sound Cup, and third in the mock exam, and our whole family feels proud. So, tonight we've set up a celebration banquet for you, and Mom and Dad are already inside preparing. Now we just need you. Shenqing was still a bit too naive. She thought that the hatred hidden in her eyes was invisible to others, but with that calculating smile, anyone could see there was a scheme. I pretended not to know and followed her into the house. Before dinner, I sent my master an address, telling her that if I didn't reply in half an hour, it meant something had happened, and to bring someone to help me. At that moment, my mom was still busy in the kitchen, and suddenly, I felt unwell, as if someone was watching me from the shadows. I looked up and saw Shen Fu standing on the stairs, staring at me with a gaze that seemed like he wanted to devour me whole. Seeing me look at him, he quickly turned and went back to his study. I pretended to be indifferent on the surface, but inside I was thinking of a way to cope. Suddenly, my gaze fell on the dining table, specifically on the 2 identical drinks in front of Shenqing. Looking at them, I had a realization. Come on, let's raise our glasses today to celebrate Yaya winning first place in the Golden Sound Cup. And also to celebrate the end of the college entrance examination for both children. At the table, Shen Fu pretended to be a loving father, smiling at me. Shenqing also changed her usual demeanor, and was particularly polite to me today. I looked at my mom and saw her eyes flickering, fixated on the dishes on the table without raising her head. Thank you. I nodded and, under everyone's gaze, drank the beverage in front of me. Seeing this, Shen Fu and Shenqing also drank heartily. Halfway through the meal, I pretended to feel dizzy, and that I could no longer support myself. I half closed my eyes and saw Shenqing showing a triumphant smile, while Shen Fu seemed a bit impatient. My mom had a flicker of struggle in her eyes, but in the end, she still did not intervene. Sister. Shenqing called out tentatively. I responded vaguely, allowing her to help me upstairs. Before leaving, I heard her say, Dad, you must help me teach her a lesson today. It would be best if you could beat her up so badly that she can't compete anymore. That way, with the first place in the Golden Sound Cup gone, I can take the first place as the second. Let's see if she dares to compete with me again. Don't worry. Shenfu readily agreed, prompting Shenqing to quickly help me into his study. Throughout the process, my mom silently ate her food, pretending not to hear. I felt a deep sadness after all. Linyu was her biological daughter. Shenqing didn't know what would happen when I got to the study. Did she really not know? For her own sake, she could sacrifice her own daughter. For a moment, I even wanted to cut open her heart to see what it was made of. Shenqing hummed a little tune as she helped me to the study. As soon as we arrived at the study, I broke free from Shenqing's support and quickly locked the door. Are you okay? Shenqing was instantly petrified, stuttering as she spoke. Long before anyone noticed, I had already secretly swapped our cups. How could I be in trouble? After all, the star of today's show has to be you. How could I, as your sister, steal your spotlight? You're pretending. Dad. Shenqing panicked. To be honest, this is the first time I am grateful that Shenfu's study is equipped with soundproofing. Even if Shenqing screams her throat out, Shenfu downstairs won't hear it. She shouted as she rushed towards the door, trying to escape the study while I wasn't paying attention. I had been keeping an eye on her movements, and when she lunged for the door, I stuck out my foot. Shenqing tripped over my foot, scraping her knee and causing it to bleed, leaving her unable to move due to the pain. Just as she was trying to get up, the effects of the drug kicked in. Her face turned red, and she collapsed to the ground like a pile of mush, disoriented. Her hands constantly tugging at her collar, feeling unbearably hot. I glanced at the time and realized that half an hour was almost up. The stage had already been set for them, and it was time for the main character to make an appearance. I changed clothes with Shenqing, let her hair down to match mine, and used the rope that Shenfu had prepared here to restrain her. To prevent Shenqing from being recognized, I also cut a piece of black fabric from Shenfu's curtains to cover her eyes and taped her mouth shut. After doing all this, I styled my hair to look like Shenqing's, came out of the study, and walked towards Shenqing's room. At the staircase, I brushed past Shenfu, and just when I thought I had successfully escaped, I heard Shenfu's voice behind me. Wait. 14. In an instant, I was drenched in cold sweat and stopped in my tracks. Qingqing, if you have nothing to do tonight, go to bed early. And don't wander around. I nodded but didn't respond. Fortunately, all of Shenfu's thoughts were focused on me in the study, so he didn't pay much attention, and left directly after seeing me nod. I breathed a sigh of relief and went to Shenqing's room. Her room had a huge floor-to-ceiling window facing the entrance of the villa. Through the window, I saw my master standing outside my house with several strong young men, followed by a police car. I used the remote control that Shenqing left on the table to open the front door, and my master was startled when he saw the door open by itself. I sent her a message saying I was fine and urged her to take these people to Shenfu's study quickly. Master saw the news and didn't delay for a moment, rushing into the house with the police. On the second floor, I heard my mother's terrified voice from downstairs. Who are you? How dare you break into my house? The police downstairs showed their badges. We are the police. Someone reported that there are children in danger in this house, and we hope you won't interfere with our duties. After saying that, they ignored my mother's obstruction and rushed directly to the study on the second floor. The leading police officer turned the doorknob, but the door had already been locked from the inside by Shenfu. Just as they were about to force the door open, Shenfu cursed and opened the door from the inside. I told you not to come near my study. Lin Hong, are you deliberately trying to ruin my plans? The police took the opportunity to kick the door open and rushed in, subduing Shenfu. Who are you? How dare you break into our home in broad daylight? Do you know who I am? Two police officers rushed forward to restrain Shenfu, while another one went to rescue Shenqing. As soon as he tore the tape off Shenqing's mouth, he heard her scream continuously. A female police officer accompanying them hurried over to comfort her, and it took a long time for her to calm down. Just when everyone thought she had settled down, something unexpected happened. She suddenly rushed to the desk, grabbed the fruit knife from the fruit plate, and screamed as she charged at Shen-Fu. Everything happened so suddenly that no one had time to react. However, the effects of the drugs in Shen-Qing's body had not worn off yet, so even though she exerted all her strength, she was still kicked away by the police controlling Shen-Fu, and the fruit knife flew out of her hand. Shen-Fu, having survived a close call, was sweating profusely, and an unknown liquid had pooled at his feet. In the end, Shen-Fu was taken away by the police. The next day, the Shen family was trending on the hot search in Rome City. Is it a lack of humanity, or a decline in morality? How could a father plot against his own daughter? The bright red headline made it to the front page. After this incident was exposed, the Shen family's partners all terminated their cooperation with them, and the Shen family's status plummeted. Shen-Qing and Lin Hong stayed at home for a whole month, afraid to go out and be pointed at by others. In this household, everyone was on edge, yet no one cared about Shen-Fu, allowing him to be detained at the police station. In a few days, the verdict was announced. Shen-Fu was sentenced to 4 years for attempted rape. The Shen family still doesn't know that the real target of Shen-Fu is actually me. Shen-Qing is afraid that if she reveals this matter, she will be implicated as Shen-Fu's accomplice, and Lin Hong is even more afraid of being despised by others for being unworthy of being a person. Therefore, both of them tacitly concealed the truth of the matter. Since Shen-Fu's incident, the Shen family has been taken over by Shen-Fu's brother, Shen-Fu. In public, Shen-Fu strongly condemned Shen-Fu's misconduct, and in order to establish his own image, he took this poor niece with him wherever he went to show that he is different from his brother. On the day of the application, Shen-Fu even invited all the relatives from the family over for a grand banquet. 1 minute before the application deadline, the whole family surrounded Shen-Qing, celebrating her entry into the top music academy in Rongin, with a parallel third ranking. No one cared about my score, or which school I applied to. Because in their eyes, I am still the useless Lin Yu. 1 minute later, Shen-Qing's application slipped, and at the top of the music performance major, my name was prominently displayed. Everyone was stunned, and Shen-Qing refreshed the application interface over and over again. But no matter how many times she refreshed, it couldn't change the fact that her application had slipped. Lin Yu. Shen-Qing pointed at me. Her finger trembling, her whole body shaking with anger. Suddenly, she couldn't catch her breath and fainted. The Shen family panicked. If something happened to Shen-Qing, the outside world wouldn't care whether it was due to her failure in the application. They would only say that the Shen family had treated this tormented girl harshly. So, they were busy pinching her acupoints and performing CPR, frantically trying to revive her. Finally, Shen-Qing opened her eyes. But when she woke up again, she could only laugh foolishly, as if she had gone mad. Since Shen-Qing's incident, I moved out of the Shen family and went to live in a house belonging to my master. Because of Shen-Qing's incident, the Shen family unanimously believed that Lin Hong's entry into the family led to the tragedy of Shen-Fu and Shen-Qing. They threw Lin Hong's luggage out overnight and froze all her bank accounts. Lin Hong lost everything and simply gave up. Crying every day at the entrance of the Shen group, lamenting how Shen-Fu had sinister intentions towards her daughter, but ended up ruining his own daughter by mistake. How the Shen family treated her, as if she were nothing, how heartless they were. This incident once again made headlines in the entertainment section of Rome City. But a few days later, people working near the Shen family no longer saw Lin Hong's figure. Some said she was secretly dealt with by the Shen family, while others said the Shen family gave her a hush money, and she fled to another place. No matter where Lin Hong went, she was no longer related to me. While I was busy dealing with the mess of the Shen family, my master handed over the video from the drone to the police, and they quickly arrested Ji Yu Chen and Guo Yao for murder. Ji Yu Chen initially refused to admit it, pushing all the blame onto Guo Yao, until the police brought in the video. The evidence was conclusive. And Ji Yu Chen had nothing to say but to plead guilty. After hearing this news, I remained silent for a long time. Looking at the slanting sun outside the window, I smiled, but as I smiled, tears streamed down my face. In September, I spoke at the opening ceremony as a representative of the new students. At the end of my speech, I closed the script in my hand and looked at the countless youthful faces in the audience. Finally, I would like to share a few points with everyone. First, if possible, I hope everyone can cherish the opportunity to be alive and strive to make the most of each day. Second, no matter whom you love, please love yourself first. Lastly, I hope everyone can have the courage to say no to any injustice or harm done to them, even if the other party is as solid as a rock and we are like floating cotton. May everyone be like wisteria, thriving endlessly and never giving up.